Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're gonna get gritty.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, you shared Angela Duckworth's book Grit with us, and you're clearly interested in what it is that sets high achievers apart from everybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Duckworth, she kicks things off with this fascinating look at West Point. And 1 in 5 cadets drop out. Many during this just brutal summer training program they call Beast Barracks.
Beast Barracks, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and these are folks who've already cleared this incredibly high admissions bar.
Right.
Like they're the best of the best. So what is it?
Yeah. So what determines who thrives under that kind of pressure? So is it talent?
Right.
No.
Is it SAT scores?
Not even close. So let's bring in our expert to kind of unpack what Duckworth found instead.
Yeah. What's so intriguing is that grit, and we can think about it as this potent blend of passion and perseverance that outpredicted everything else.
Mhm.
It wasn't just about working hard. It was about aligning that effort with deeply held passion for this top level goal.
Yep.
So it was about the combination.
Yeah. Um, that West Point study, it really blew me away. Just knowing that grit was more important than just raw talent, that's kind of a game changer.
Totally. Yeah.
Does Duckworth think we overvalue talent then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She argues that we often get so focused on innate ability that we totally undervalue the impact of just consistent effort. And she even has a name for it. She calls it effort counts twice,
Okay.
which I love. And the idea is that your effort not only helps you improve, but it compounds over time, so it leads to even bigger gains.
So it's not just that effort matters, but it has this multiplier effect.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that. It makes me think of those stories about Olympic swimmers. They're not just magically gifted.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's
They put in the work. And Duckworth uses them as a prime example. And, these swimmers, they spend hours mastering the mundane, like the tiny details of each stroke. And they do this day after day. And it's that sustained focus and effort that ultimately leads to, those gold medals.
okay. So it's not just effort, it's focused effort. I guess that explains why my jogging hasn't gotten any faster, even though I'm out there all the time.
You just brought up a perfect example.
Yeah.
Because what you're describing is just putting in the hours.
Right.
But deliberate practice, on the other hand, is about setting these stretch goals and zooming in on your weaknesses and constantly pushing your comfort zone.
Wait, so just jogging isn't enough. I have to be intentional about it.
Think of it like this. Are you setting specific goals for each run?
Not really.
Okay. Are you tracking your progress?
I mean, I've got my little watch that tells me how far I go.
Okay. But are you pushing yourself to run a little faster or a little further each time?
Not really, no.
Okay, so that's the difference. Deliberate practice is about being laser focused on improvement, not just going through the motions.
Wow. I mean, I've been jogging for years, but I never thought about it that way.
And that's the beauty of it. It applies to anything you want to master, whether it's running or
Yeah.
writing or playing music or even your career.
That's incredible. It really challenges this idea that some people are just naturals at things.
Totally. And speaking of challenging assumptions,
Mm.
Duckworth argues that even interest, which is the foundation of grit, often isn't this lightning bolt of inspiration.
Yeah, you're right. It's not always a eureka moment.
Exactly.
Mm.
And she tells this great story of Mark Vetri, who's this world-renowned chef who began as a dishwasher. And, he was initially just drawn to the energy of the kitchen and the camaraderie. It wasn't this instant love affair with food.
Hmm.
But that environment, the community, helped him to develop his passion.
It's like finding your tribe. People who support you and push you to grow. So, I mean, for you listening, think about your own interests. Are there ways that you can explore them more deeply? Find mentors or connect with people who share your passions.
It's such a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Because, finding your passion is just the starting line. Duckworth argues that purpose, the belief that your work has meaning beyond yourself, is essential for sustaining that passion over a lifetime.
She uses the example of Jane Golden, the founder of the Philadelphia Mural Arts Program, right?
Right.
Someone who didn't initially set out to do that kind of work, but found incredible purpose and creativity in it.
That's exactly right. And what's so inspiring about Golden's story is that it emphasizes that anyone can cultivate a sense of purpose in their work. It doesn't matter what they do. It's about finding that connection between your efforts and a larger contribution.
It's like finding that sweet spot where your passion intersects with something that truly matters. That's powerful. Okay. So we've covered passion, perseverance, and purpose. But how does hope fit into all of this? What about those moments when we face setbacks and just feel like giving up?
Yeah, I mean, that's where Duckworth brings in the power of perspective.
Hmm.
She differentiates between optimists and pessimists, noting that optimists tend to see setbacks as these like temporary bumps in the road.
Okay.
They don't let one bad day derail their whole journey.
So instead of I'm a failure, it's more like, okay, this one thing didn't work out. What could I learn from it and move on?
Exactly. And that's where the idea of a growth mindset comes in.
Okay.
It's this belief that intelligence and talent aren't fixed. They're things that you can develop through effort. It's like having mental muscles you can strengthen.
I love that analogy. But honestly, sometimes I struggle with that. Like I'd hit a roadblock and think, well, maybe I'm just not good at this. Any tips for someone like me?
Oh, it's a common struggle.
Hmm.
Duckworth tells this great story of Bill McNabb, this really successful CEO who started with a more fixed mindset. And he had to actively learn to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. One key is to shift your self-talk.
Okay.
So instead of saying, I'm not good at this, try, what can I learn from this to get better?
That's really practical advice. Okay, so we've got this individual piece of grit, but Duckworth also talks about the impact of our environment.
Right.
What does she say about the role of parenting, for example?
Her hard thing rule really resonated with me.
Okay.
It's a framework for parents to help their kids develop grit. First, everyone in the family has to be tackling a hard thing.
Okay.
So leading by example.
Okay. I like that. Walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Right, exactly. Second, you can't quit on a whim. There will be tough days, but quitting should be a deliberate decision, not just an emotional reaction.
But isn't there a danger of pushing kids too hard? What if they're truly miserable?
That's where the third part comes in. You get to pick your hard thing.
Okay.
It should be something you're at least somewhat interested in, because no one is going to stick with something they truly hate.
So it's about providing structure and guidance, but also empowering kids to have some ownership. It's not about forcing them into piano lessons they despise.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where challenge meets genuine interest. And I think this hard thing concept goes beyond just kids' activities.
Yeah.
It's about embracing challenges in all aspects of life, at work and relationships, even in our personal growth.
That's so true. It's not just about gritting your teeth through something you hate. It's about identifying those meaningful challenges that push us to become our best selves.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And while individual effort is key, Duckworth also emphasizes the powerful influence of culture on our levels of grit.
Right. We can't ignore the environment we're in. What are some of the cultures she highlights as being particularly gritty?
The Seattle Seahawks are a great example.
Oh, yeah.
They're known for their intensely competitive culture, emphasizing positive self-talk, teamwork, and just this relentless drive to improve.
Didn't she also mention the KIPP charter schools?
Oh, yeah.
They have this reputation for being pretty demanding, but also incredibly successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
KPP schools are known for their no excuses philosophy.
Yeah.
But it's not about being harsh.
Right.
It's about fostering this belief that every student can achieve at a high level if they work hard and persevere.
Yeah. It sounds like those high expectations are balanced with a strong sense of support and community. So how do we go about building these kinds of cultures? Is there a magic formula?
While there's no one-size-fits-all recipe, Duckworth points to some common threads.
Yeah.
One is shared values.
Okay.
Greedy cultures are crystal clear about what they stand for and what they're striving for.
It's like that team mentality, right?
Right.
Everyone rowing in the same direction. Like the Seahawks' emphasis on teamwork, it's not just about individual glory, it's about collective success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another key is clear communication.
Okay.
Leaders in these cultures are intentional about the messages they send, consistently reinforcing those values and behaviors. It's not just about having a mission statement on the wall. It's about living it every day.
So walking the walk again.
Yeah.
And the last element.
High expectations. Gritty cultures have a deep belief in the potential of their people, and they set the bar accordingly. It's not about being ruthless. It's about setting challenging goals and providing the support needed to reach them.
I'm starting to see the pattern here. It's about finding that balance, right? High expectations, but also high support.
Exactly.
Like Anson Dorrance, the legendary UNC soccer coach. He's demanding, but he also creates this really supportive environment where players feel empowered to reach their full potential.
Precisely. It's a delicate balance, but one that's essential for creating an environment where grit can thrive. And it's an ongoing process requiring constant attention, feedback, and adaptation.
You know, this whole conversation about growth mindset really has me thinking. You mentioned Carol Dweck, who pioneered that
All
research.
right.
Can we dive a little deeper into her work?
Absolutely. Weck's research shows that people tend to have one of two mindsets, fixed or growth. Those with a fixed mindset believe that intelligence and talent are set in stone.
So if you're not good at something, you're just stuck.
That's the belief. On the other hand, people with a growth mindset see intelligence and talent as something you can develop through effort and learning.
So it's not about where you start. It's about your willingness to grow and evolve.
Exactly. And Dweck found that these mindsets have a huge impact on how people approach challenges and even their overall achievements.
So how do these mindsets play out in real life?
Imagine two students struggling in math. The one with a fixed mindset might say, I'm just not a math person, and give up easily.
Because what's the point of trying if you believe you're inherently limited?
Right. But the student with a growth mindset might say, this is tough, but I know I can improve if I keep working at it. They're more likely to seek help, try different strategies, and persevere.
Because they believe their effort matters. It's not about innate ability. It's about dedication and a willingness to learn.
And the great thing is, Dweck's research shows that this growth mindset can be learned.
Oh, wow.
It's not something you're born with, it's a way of thinking you can cultivate through practice.
It's like we were saying earlier about deliberate practice. If you believe you can improve, you're more likely to put in the effort.
Exactly.
It all ties together.
It does. And it highlights how important the messages we send to children and ourselves are. If we praise effort and persistence, not just talent, we help foster that growth mindset.
So instead of, you're so smart, it's, I'm so proud of how hard you worked on that.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the setbacks and failures are part of the process. They're not signs of inadequacy, but opportunities to learn and grow.
Wow, this has been eye-opening. It makes you think about how much our mindset shapes our experiences. But before we wrap up part 2, I want to leave you with this. Think about the people in your life, colleagues, friends, family. How do their mindsets, their beliefs about talent and intelligence influence their behavior and achievements? We'll pick up this conversation in part 3.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into grit.
You know, thinking about those mindsets has me curious about the cultural piece again. Is there like a way to instill a growth mindset on a larger scale, like a whole community or even a country?
It's fascinating you ask that because Duckworth talks about this Finnish concept called sisu.
Sisu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's this idea of having almost like superhuman perseverance.
Oh, wow.
This like gut level determination to never give up.
Okay, Sisu. I love that. It sounds almost like a superpower. Do you think there's something special about Finnish culture that fosters this?
Yeah.
Like, are they just born with more Sisu?
While I wouldn't say it's about genetics, there's definitely something powerful about these cultural narratives.
Right.
If you're raised believing that resilience is part of your heritage, it's bound to shape your actions.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. It reminds me of those stories about communities where like everyone runs marathons.
Right.
And it's not because they're all genetically predisposed to it. It's just because it's what you do in that environment. It becomes the norm.
That's a great analogy. And it ties into Duckworth's examples of leaders who intentionally cultivate these gritty cultures in their organizations.
Yeah. Like Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, comes to mind.
Oh, yeah?
He's known for being tough, but also for emphasizing integrity and a long-term vision.
Dimon's a perfect example. He says incredibly high standards, but he also fosters this like open communication and mutual respect. It's not about being cutthroat. It's about striving for excellence together.
And didn't she also highlight Pete Carroll, the coach of the Seattle Seahawks? He seems to have created this incredibly positive, but also competitive environment.
Yeah. Carroll is a master at what he calls a growth mindset culture. And players are encouraged to constantly learn and improve and push their limits. But it's all within this supportive and empowering framework.
Yeah, and it's clearly working. I mean, the Seahawks have consistently been a top team under his leadership. So we've covered like the individual elements of grit, the passion, perseverance, the hope, the growth mindset, and then also the influence of parenting and culture. It's a lot to digest.
Right.
So what is the most important takeaway from all of this?
For me, the most empowering message is that grit isn't something you're born with. It's a skill. It's like a muscle that you can build through deliberate practice and purposeful goals and a supportive culture and a belief in your ability to grow.
Yeah, that's so encouraging because it means we're not limited by like our circumstances or our perceived talents.
Yeah.
We can all become grittier if we're willing to put in the work.
Absolutely. And it's never too late to start. Whether you're a student, a parent, an athlete, or a CEO, These principles can help you achieve your goals and live a more fulfilling life.
This has been an amazing deep dive.
I agree.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of grit. And before we sign off, I want to leave you with one of Duckworth's most powerful lines. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. So as you go out into the world today, remember that passion and perseverance and a belief in your own potential are the keys to achieving your long-term goals. Keep learning, keep growing, and never give up on your dreams.
Great advice.